The Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast is hosted by me, intuitive eating wellness coach Deanna Kozarov. My mission is to show women that health and wellness can be achieved without the pursuit of weight loss, counting calories, and spending hours in the gym punishing yourself. I am taking back health and wellness from diet culture and showing women that they don't have to succumb to diet culture standards to feel good in their body and find joy in life. I'll be coming on the podcast to talk about a variety of topics that will help you on your journey to food freedom, movement, and how to care for your body and life. It is my hope that by having this podcast, you will have the mental and emotional space freed up to enjoy life instead of constantly worrying and stressing over food and exercise, and live the life that you deserve. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 8 on the Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast. I hope you are well and good. In today's episode, we are going to discuss 3 reasons why you may be binging eating past fullness. I think at some point of our wellness journeys, you have eaten past fullness. I know I have. I don't think us coaches are immune to this. And if you hear otherwise, they are not telling the truth. I have a good grasp of intuitive eating and food freedom and all that, but let me tell you, from time to time, more often than not, I too experience overeating, eating past fullness, binging, all of that. Remember, intuitive eating is not meant to be linear, nor is it a diet. You won't eat perfect all the time, and that is okay. Awareness is key here. Now, I wanted to throw a disclaimer that sometimes binging can be extreme and frequent to the point that it can be disruptive to your everyday life. And if that is the case, I strongly encourage you to reach out to a doctor or a mental health professional to evaluate you to see if there's something more serious going on. You may even have to skip this episode as it may be triggering to you. What I go into today is more for the average woman who may eat past fullness more than binges, although we all can binge from time to time. So I am going to go into now 3 reasons why you binge eat and eat past fullness. Now, also, you may have felt many times that you overate, and if you've been restricting and dieting up until now, this will also feel like you overate when really you are tuning into what your body wants and needs. So number 1 is you did not eat enough. One reason you find yourself eating past fullness is because you did not eat enough. Simple as that. If you are skipping meals throughout the day, eventually your body is going to cry for nourishment and eat all the things as much as possible in sight for fear of not sure when it will get food again. You will be so far down the hunger scale and even off of it for waiting so long. By the way, this is totally a normal response, as it is your body's way of wanting to keep you safe. It does not know that you are dieting or restricting. It thinks it's in a famine state. So it's a total normal response. I also have known to be working on a project or something else, and I get so deep into my work that the next thing you know, I skipped lunch. And then, of course, I want to snag the first thing I see and just start eating everything in sight since I haven't prepared anything. So you want to have some meal prep done so you don't just start eating everything in sight and then you end up feeling like uncomfortably full. Or have a snack between meals can help too, so you don't get yourself to that starving stage. And at first you can set a timer to remind you to get up and eat something until you get more in tune with your hunger. Or if you know that you have a meeting or an obligation coming up later in the day where you know you won't be able to eat anything, eating a meal, even if you're not hungry, can help prevent the binging and eating past fullness later as well. We call this practical eating. It's when you are aware that you're going to be going into some meeting or project that's going to last for hours and you won't have the opportunity to eat. So you eat beforehand, even though you're not hungry, just to prevent overeating and eating past fullness later. And keep in mind, you want to give yourself compassion and approach this with curiosity. And this would be one angle to look at. Number 2 is you are going through a very stressful time in your life. And to relieve the stressor, you turn to food. A common reason you may be eating past fullness is because you are going through a situation that is causing high stress and you use food to help you soothe. Again, totally normal. In my one-to-one private coaching program, we come up with other ways to also lower stress levels that don't involve with food. In the last episode 7, I go into emotional eating, which is a part of this. So if you have not listened to that episode, go back one episode before this one after listening and check that one out. That one is all about emotional eating. The third reason could be you restrict certain foods due to thinking they are bad, only to turn around and binge on those foods. You restrict the food you avoid until you no longer are able to, or if you get exposed to those foods, you then tend to binge on those foods. Again, total normal response. This is why giving yourself unconditional permission to eat all the foods helps lower the desirability of those foods and no longer make them high on a pedestal. I had this issue big time with potato chips. Potato chips was my food that I would try to avoid over and over again. I kept them out of the house for like a really long time because I was giving them the label as being bad and, telling myself, they're bad, like don't go near them. I would restrict them until I no longer was able to. And then of course, when I would let them back in the home, I then would start, end up eating the whole bag, of course. So when I started letting them back in the home more often though, I soon then started to not binge on them as much. And then I would just have some and move on because I started bringing the potato chips more often in the house. So it is my hope that now you have a better understanding of why we tend to binge, why we tend to overeat, why we tend to eat past fullness. And I hope those reasons gave you some new perspectives as to why we tend to overeat and eat past fullness and binge. Now, aside from that, I have a new freebie for you. I wanted to mention that I just created. It's a food and mood journal. I will put the link below for you to sign up for that. It's a really simple template. You just enter the food or meal you eat, and then you write down how you feel after consuming that meal. I also added some journal prompts for some reflection after doing this activity. You can print the tracking sheets as many times as you want if you need to do this more than once, which you may need to in order to get a good grasp of like what foods makes you feel great and what foods do not. There's no diety tracking things on there. There's no calorie counting, no macro counting, none of that. It's like literally a food and mood journal. You write down what you ate, what you eat, and then you just write down how you feel after consuming that meal. Well, that is it for me. If you have any questions about this podcast episode, feel free to email me at deanna@deannakozarov.com. And thanks again for listening. And if you feel this episode would benefit others that you know, feel free to share this episode. And also the link to the freebie as well, if you think they would benefit with that as well. And I will chat with you in the next episode.